Marathon is the newest game from storied studio Bungie that has created some of the largest and most prolific first-person shooter experiences in all of gaming. Sure, they didn't invent the genre, but they have left their mark with games like Halo and of course Destiny 2. Recently, Bungie had a big media blowout event, revealing the game fully with gameplay, snazzy trailers, and more. And the internet's reaction has been, well, let's get into it. Will Marathon be the next Destiny or Halo? Or will this become 2025's Concord live service dumpster fire that's just waiting to happen? For the uninitiated, Marathon isn't just Bungie's latest project, it's a revival of their FPS trilogy from way back in the day. It was pretty much like Doom, but with better storytelling. There were AIs with attitude and enough lore to make even the Destiny historians pretty confused. Fast forward to 2025 and Bungie's rebooting it as a PvP extraction shooter that's set on the planet Tau Ceti 4, hopefully I said that right, where you play as runners. These are cybernetic mercenaries that are looting a creepy abandoned colony. Think Escape from Tarkov meets Destiny's gunplay with a side of acid trip visuals. Sounds dope, right? But here's the kicker, and really the cause of concern for me especially as I watched the reveal and read the articles about it, which is that Marathon is going to release as a premium title in a sea of free-to-play games. We're talking no single-player campaign, no co-op story mode, just you, a squad, and a ticking clock to grab loot before rival teams or AI bots turn you into digital confetti. Sure, it's bold, it's risky, and to be real with you, it's got the internet kind of in a full-on meltdown. First up, the big one. Marathon is a live service game and the internet's got trust issues with that. Look, Bungie wrote the book on live service when it came with Destiny. But they've also fumbled the ball in the past. Remember Destiny 1 and how the entire campaign was pretty much gutted before release. Or Destiny 2 with the whole sunsetting fiasco and more. Fans are worried that Marathon could be another grind-heavy cash grab with more microtransactions and a mobile gacha game, and then this comes from GameSpot. Bungie's Marathon is a polished extraction shooter, but that might not be enough. The biggest comparisons I've seen for Marathon is Escape from Tarkov meets Destiny, and unfortunately a lot of people are also comparing it to Concord as well. This is mostly because the game's visual style looks very experimental and dare I say weird, where every character looks like a mismatch of Destiny's various weapon groups like Future War Cult, and I don't know if it's just me, but the whole game looks like it's inspired visually by how the Nine look in Destiny. How everything the Nine is involved with just looks weird and ethereal and, well, I guess alien-like, maybe that's the point, and then the Concord comparison doesn't really help either, since we all know how that game turned out. Also the fact that the game is also part hero shooter since every runner that you play as also has a set amount of abilities in their kit, just like Overwatch, Rivals, and yeah, even Concord sadly. Granted, this is Bungie we're talking about here, and if anyone is able to make a live service game be good to some degree, it's probably them. Sure, they fumbled in the past with Destiny. I mean, Curse of Osiris was absolute ass, Lightfall was disappointing, and so on. But they've had many high points with Destiny too, from Taken King to Forsaken as well. I have no doubt that Marathon will play and look great because Bungie, in my opinion, has never released a game that was genuinely and not fun to play at least. The game's gunplay looks very Destiny inspired. And I wouldn't be surprised if they reused a lot of the same assets. People even pointed out that the runners that you play in the game use similar hand movements and such from various subclasses in Destiny, but I mean, that's a non-issue in my opinion. Because development studios have always reused assets and animations between their games. Dark Souls and Elden Ring are technically two different franchises. Yet they use the same weapon icons, movement, and even the way you attack with certain weapons all feel exactly like Dark Souls when you play Elden Ring, yet nobody complained about that, right? The point is that the DNA of a studio's legacy will obviously spill into whatever they make next, and because of this, I have high hopes that Marathon will, at the very least, play well and feel good when you pull that trigger and shoot things, just like it does in Destiny or Halo. However, that's not really the issue I personally have with Marathon when it comes to any of this. It's actually pretty much everything else, if I'm being honest. Some say that this could tank Bungie and kill them for good. I wouldn't go that far yet, but the fear is real. Because extraction shooters live or die on their replayability, and if Marathon's loot loop feels like a 9-to-5 job, players will bounce off of this very fast. Plus, after Sony's Concord crashed and burned, I mean, it was like $400 million down the drain with that one. People are kind of just side-eyeing anything with live service in the pitch, and I mean, who can blame them? As GameSpot put it after 8 hours hands-on with the game, putting it plainly, I'm worried Marathon could launch as a solid multiplayer shooter that is brimming with potential, but thin on content. And in the dog-eat-dog world of multiplayer games, that could be a major issue. Marathon's game director, Joe Zegler, was interviewed by GameSpot and said this about the game. For us, the opportunity of an extraction shooter really comes from two parts. One is that we have a team that's very excited to build it. But we also have this idea of how do we create the next step of Bungie, but also harken back to some of the PvP roots that Bungie originally had with Halo and things of that sort. We're also doing something quite crazy experimental, if you will. We're trying to build a service that's like a PvPvE game where we can do a lot of the cool storytelling things that Bungie really does. But do it in the context of a game where a lot of the content is driven by players interacting with one another. I think that nexus of things really makes us very excited to create this experience for players. So the gist of Marathon is that it's a game where you drop into a map with your squad and then you're tasked with finding things, then getting to an extraction point, and then living long enough to get back to base with those things in hand. From what GameSpot says, the things that you'll be collecting, they range from crafting materials to weapons of various rarities, so the game has Destiny-like weapons like legendaries and exotics, I guess? I'm honestly not really 100% sure, to be honest with you, because wouldn't rarities and weapons, if you're able to extract them, mean that you can then jump into a future game with better weapons than your competition? Wouldn't that in theory throw the balance out of whack? If, say, some newer players then fight you and your weapons and your gear hit way harder or have more ammo or better effects than they do? I know games like Fortnite have rarity levels to their weapons too, but the added bonus there is that the weapons only exist in that match and it's all random, so anybody can find anything. So maybe that's how this will all go instead, or perhaps the rarities are just cosmetics that you can place on your weapons to show that you got some legendary skin for whatever weapon you're using, I guess. Like I said, the actual messaging around Marathon, if you haven't noticed, is very, let's put it simply, it's kind of a mess, guys. But let's be fair at least, Bungie's nailed live service before. Destiny 2's expansions like the Witch Queen and the Final Shape did well for the company, even if post-Final Shape most players left. If they bring that polish to Marathon, we might be eating good. The question is, can they balance loot, progression, and monetization without making us feel like we're funding their next yacht while playing their new game? Next, let's talk about the genre. Extraction shooters are hot right now, but some folks think the market is as crowded as a Black Friday sale. You've got Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, and now Marathon wants a piece of the pie. The internet's like, Bungie, why not a new Halo, or maybe Destiny 3? Why would you do this instead? And the concern is that extraction shooters are, let's be real, they're pretty brutal to play. You grind for loot, you get sniped by a camper, and then you lose everything you just did. It's not exactly casual Friday material. I think the big barrier to entry here is that Marathon looks to be a highly competitive squad-based shooter game, which may be great if you're a streamer who has other dedicated streamer buddies who can also no-life the game and play it all the time. Then sure, you could be having a blast playing it. But we need to realize that these sorts of games do need the lifeblood of casual players to survive past a month or even a year. And when the frame of your game boils down to you running around aimlessly for 20 minutes, then you find something cool, and then some guy who hasn't showered in 5 days just snipes you in the head and then you leave with nothing, yeah, that's not going to feel pretty great. According to Bungie, currently during their playtest, that Marathon survival rate is supposedly under 50%. And that's an absurd coin flip if you ask me, that you're confident more than half of your players who are going to be playing this game, their experience will mostly just be what then? Dying, only to reload into a new match and then die again over and over and get pretty much nothing? And how long until those players just have enough of it and go, this whole extraction shooter nonsense is stupid, and then they just move on? Because I tend to think very likely if you ask me. Still, Bungie's got a secret weapon, which is their gunplay. If Marathon feels as crisp as Destiny's Pulse Rifles or Halo's Battle Rifle, it could stand out. Plus their art style, neon colors, blocky industrial vibes. It's giving Borderlands if they were to throw it into a cyberpunk blender. If they nail the vibe and make losses less soul-crushing, this could be a banger. But if it's just Tarkov with extra steps, I'm not so sure. Speaking of Borderlands 4, by the way, Marathon releases the same day as that game too, and if you ask me, to the casual first-person shooter player out there, Borderlands 4 is going to be a far more viable and enticing purchase over that of Marathon, because what would these casual players want? A game that has a single-player story mode where they can progress and tinker with their builds and clear quests and not lose their guns or whatever because some guy snipes them. Or a game like Marathon, where if you don't have a squad who puts their real lives on hold to play it, you're basically operating at a loss out of the gate. It probably doesn't help that Bungie has confirmed via PC Gamer Marathon won't have proximity chat because it would be way too toxic. Oh boy, here we go again. According to Joe Ziegler, the game director, it's to create a safe space for players, but here's the thing: you're operating within a genre of online shooters that are pretty much built around such a concept like this, and again, this just feels like corporate hand-holding if you ask me. Asmongold actually chimed in and said this: proximity voice chat is the lifeblood of online shooter games. Removing it to protect the feelings of mentally ill Twitter-toned policers is a mistake and actively works against the best experience for the majority of players. I agree with him on that one. I think the more hand-holdy you are with your audience, the less likely they're going to like it. And to then claim that proximity chat is disabled at default is just a bad idea. It should simply be on by default, and then there should just be a toggle in the settings to turn it off if you really don't want it. But to simply shut it down like this, yeah, another red flag in the myriad of red flags plaguing Marathon right now. It's not just the proximity chat stuff. People have also noticed that Bungie is, well, there still seems anyways to be doubling down on the whole identity politics stuff even to this day. Because during one of the Marathon surveys, I assume this was to get into the alpha that Bungie had, there's a part where they ask you if you are male, female, non-binary, transgender, or not listed. This irked a lot of people online, and understandably, the internet kind of just mocked Bungie for it. Simply because this sort of stuff has largely been abandoned and rejected by the general gaming populace almost completely in 2024 and early 2025 already. People are just sick of this stuff, and if you ask me, when a company adds something like this to their surveys, it's more a filtering test than anything else. It almost seems as if you're more likely to get into that alpha for Marathon if you just downright lie and say that you are transgender or make up something and put it in the non-listed category instead. So the more unique and inclusive you seem, the more likely you are to trick Bungie's PR teams into giving you a code pretty much. And honestly, if you do sign up for the alpha, you should do that. Don't say you're a man, because I bet Bungie will reject most people who say that they're just male anyways. After all, modern problems require modern solutions, people. In this instance, we're all gonna be non-binary so we get that code, okay? And then once the game is out officially, then you can go back to being a male or a female, I guess. But you gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, it is stupid that they even add things like this. And the fact that during their reveal they had developers with their pronouns in their descriptions, like, come on guys, can we stop doing this? It's not hard to look at this Christopher guy here and go, yeah, that's a dude. Because I don't know about you, but it's very obvious what Chris is to me. It just feels antiquated and really out of touch, and it just shows that despite the consumer base largely moving on from this sort of nonsense, that these development studios that all seem to exist in these liberal breeding grounds tend to just double down despite the rest of the world just laughing at them by acting like this. Because the real world is not just like San Francisco or California in general. Hate to break it to these sorts of devs, but it's true. But when you got your pronouns in your bio, it just makes people not take you, and by association, your game seriously either. So just stop doing this. But despite all the problems that Bungie has plaguing them, from stupid pronouns or androgynous character designs, which also have caused players to raise their eyebrows. By the way, the character designs are why there's a lot of people comparing this to Concord, because the characters look, how do I put this? The best way I can describe what these characters look like to me is that they look random, like they're both generic, yet as if Bungie just told an AI computer to generate a character in a video game, if that makes any sense. These characters look like if Destiny's newer character designs got smashed together with the aesthetic style of like Watch Dogs 2, if that makes any sense to anyone. I'm not saying they look terrible, but I gotta be honest and say that the character designs definitely don't speak to me in any meaningful way. Especially when you compare how Marathon looks as you've been seeing this entire video, and then you compare it to how it used to look like back in the day, which looks far more in line and interesting to what Bungie is known for. I guess every live service game needs to have a weird, unique art style now to stand out. So I can't say that I'm that surprised, but the whole game just looks weird to me. But again, who knows? Maybe in the future they'll add better alternate designs for the characters and such. But there's also the other big elephant in the room, which is that if you ask me, Marathon is kind of Bungie's last chance at doing really anything going forward. Bungie's been through the ringer. Layoffs in 2023 and 2024 hit them hard. Hundreds of devs got let go and their morale tanked. Then there's the Sony acquisition in 22, which has fans worried that Bungie lost their indie soul, so to speak. So the internet's kind of whispering, is Marathon even going to ship? Reports from Insider Gaming say the development's been rocky, with playtests showing promise, but the character models are still looking like they're weird PS4 assets. The point is that Bungie is kind of on their last legs here, if I'm being honest, and they need to deliver an absolute banger of a game. And frankly, I don't think the extraction shooter angle was the way to go here. At the very least, Marathon should have had other game modes present as well. Because even Fortnite and other live service games have expanded beyond their core game modes. Yeah, okay, you got Battle Royale in Fortnite, but you also got Ballistic, which is your tactical FPS version, for example, that's there too. And if you ask me, Marathon is a big WTF when it comes to what they're offering versus what they're demanding in return. In case you didn't know, Marathon is not free to play. It will be, as Bungie puts it, a premium title, which has, like everything else surrounding this game, come off as a bit of a mess. As Bungie said here, Marathon will be a premium title. Marathon will not be a full price title. We'll announce details this summer. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? The game is not going to be free to play, but will be a premium title, but won't be full priced? And in today's landscape, that full price range is kind of nebulous as well. Nintendo is raising game prices to $80 American digitally and $90 physically, so Marathon could cost what then? $40, $50, $60? Technically, none of those are full price, but even then, asking $50 to $60 per player is a big ask in today's markets. I made this same point a long time ago on this channel. The video is delisted now, I'm pretty sure, but when Battlefield 2042 came out, I talked about how that game was going to die because it was a full-price game that just offered multiplayer at release. And even back then, the competition to Battlefield were all basically free-to-play games outside of Call of Duty, who just justifies their price point with a campaign and stuff like zombies. But the point of the matter is that if you're doing a live service game these days, you can't be asking players to buy into it like this. Let's be real, guys, Destiny 2 has gone free to play as well. Sure, Bungie forces you to pay for expansions, which has worked to some degree for them, even though the final shave basically crippled them internally and led to mass layoffs after Bungie missed their profits by 45% back in 2023, if you remember that. And let's not forget that while Bungie didn't make the game, Halo Infinite over at Microsoft also launched as free to play as well. And even then, the game struggled to find a core audience after 343 Industries, now called Halo Studios, hasn't exactly made a compelling Halo experience yet for players. So if the two biggest franchises that Bungie has made have in their own ways faltered, failed, and kind of unraveled themselves, as the entire industry changed how they perceive and engage with live service online multiplayer content going forward, the fact that Bungie believes that they can get away with making players pay for Marathon when the majority of their competition, even if they're not extraction shooters, aren't doing the same thing? You have to wonder if Bungie is setting themselves up for complete failure again, because Concord launched at $40 American, $40 Canadian, and nobody bought the game. It was a PlayStation first-party title and has gone down in history as the biggest failure in Sony's entire existence when it came to video games. Sure, yeah, the game's character designs were uninspired political slop with pronouns and bio and everything else, kind of like what Bungie is doing with Marathon, I'm just saying. I guess Sony thinks if anyone can replicate what happened with Helldivers 2, which was also a so-called premium title that retailed for $50 Canadian at release, it's Bungie. However, in Helldivers 2's case, they catered kind of to a similar extraction shooter-like experience, but the difference was you didn't fight other players. It's a PvE game pretty much. Yeah, okay, you can shoot people by accident or on purpose, I guess, but you get the idea. Maybe Sony thinks that Bungie can strike similar gold here. You ask me, they would be far better off just going free to play from the get-go. Look at Marvel Rivals, an absolute juggernaut that hasn't even existed for a year yet and has already had something like 40 million players. And let's be honest, if Rivals asked you to pay $40 to $50 in order to play it when it first came out, that game would have flopped already. And look, Rivals is a quality game, I enjoy it a lot, but even with arguably one of the biggest IPs in the world and Marvel being the crux of your experience, Disney and NetEase still had to go free to play to ensure that the game would exist and have a healthy player population months later. Even Overwatch had to adopt a free-to-play model despite when the first game came out in 2016, it was also technically a premium title. So why was it okay for Overwatch to cost money but Overwatch 2 didn't? It's simple, because the market has changed completely since then. And the fact of the matter is that you need to adapt with the times or you get left in the dust like Concord was. which is why when you look at the large amount of live service titles either already out or thriving or soon to be released, pretty much all of these games have one thing in common: they're all free to play. So when your competition is basically zero barriers to entry, and here you go and add a paywall while also confirming that your so-called premium title, not fully priced game, will also have battle passes and skins to buy at launch, it just comes off as a big no thanks to most players. Why would I want to play your game if you're then going to want to charge me upwards of $20 plus for a single skin in your game too? How can one skin reasonably cost almost half the price of your entire game that you just sold to me? It's absurd. If Sony wants Marathon to have legs in this fight, they need to remove the price entirely and completely switch the game to a free-to-play model. Players are going to be far more likely to buy into a battle pass or skins if the game is free at the get-go. Then, if you find your audience, maybe then you can offer a subscription-like service like Epic does with Fortnite Crew, which has its own bonuses attached. But this old archaic way of let's sell people a game in an already niche genre of online shooters that most people are frankly not as interested in, versus the whole battle royale or just 6v6 multiplayer map stuff, yeah, it's a big ask if you ask me. Personally, I don't care for extraction shooter PvP games myself. I'll admit it, okay? I'm a casual person in these space these days. I used to be far more hardcore about it when I was younger, but now I could care less. I play Rivals exclusively with my girlfriend, and we just play quick play. We've never played ranked, because we genuinely couldn't care less. We just want to have fun, man, and make jokes while playing is all. The only other online game I play is Fortnite, again with friends, and never ranked either. I don't care about racing through the leaderboards or something. These two games are not my job or my life. I just play them to have fun. If I die, cool, who cares? It's a video game. So when you tell me that your new game will both cost me money to buy into it, but will also put me at a major disadvantage if I play the game solo, it's just a hard pass for me if I'm being honest. Which is unfortunate, right? Because it seems like a cool world to me, but like Destiny, it's a world that I would want to live in and explore my own pace, but instead the only way I can play it is this one game mode that I'm not really interested in, where some crazy streamer is probably going to farm me for clips so he can put it on TikTok. It just doesn't really speak to me is what I'm saying, and look, maybe I'm all wrong about this and the game will be amazing for Sony and Bungie. Lord knows that Bungie needs a win right now, if anything. But once I remove myself from the initial reveal, I honestly feel basically nothing once it was all said and done. But I hear you saying, holding the pitchforks, Bungie's been here before. Halo Combat Evolved was a mess until the last minute once they shipped it, and then it changed gaming. Destiny launched shaky, but then became a juggernaut, I know. The gameplay reveal did show tight shooting and wild environments and all that, but maybe, just maybe, they are cooking something special here. Okay, I will admit it. But here's where it gets weird. So OG Marathon fans probably are kinda pissed about all of this because the original trilogy had a deep story, rampant AIs, alien invasions, philosophical vibes. And then here's the reboot, zero single player, it's all PvP and PvE extraction with no campaign to tie it all together. Look, I get it. Marathon's terminals were peak 90s storytelling, reading, creepy AI rants between firefights was a vibe. But ditching that for a loot chase feels like trading a novel for a slot machine instead. It just feels and looks nothing like what the original was meant to be, you know? And to be fair, according to Bungie, they will be dropping lore through environmental storytelling. Think Dark Souls, but with more robots. The reveal hinted at puzzles and boss fights and secrets on that planet that you play on. So maybe if they weave in Marathon's weird AI vibes, like give us a shady Cortana cousin, it could work. Still no campaign's a gamble when fans wanted Halo, with extra existential dread instead. But credit where it's due, Bungie has been known to add weird cryptic puzzles in their raids within Destiny and all the weird ways players had to figure out things to get new exotic weapons too. Remember the whole wish system in Destiny 2? Yeah, Bungie is known for weird stuff, and I bet that you'll find similar weird things in Marathon too. And Bungie's also promising crossplay and cross-save, so you can squad up on PS5, Xbox, or PC without having to think about it, which is a big plus in my book. And the risk-reward loop, stealing another team's extract at the last second, sounds like pure chaos. In a good way, maybe. But will it be enough to keep players invested in the long run if the core game mode doesn't resonate enough? If Bungie nails the balance, fun over frustration, style over grind, this could be a good time, no alcohol required, but they gotta deliver or we might see the next Anthem or Concord happening in front of our very eyes. So where do we land? Marathon's a high-stakes bet. I think we can all agree on that one. The internet's worried about live service greed, extraction fatigue, Bungie struggles, and a missing story. It's all fair points. Bungie's not untouchable, and the genre's a minefield, but the hype is real too. The art looks good, the gunplay's tight, and Bungie's got a track record for pulling off clutch wins. My take? I'm cautiously interested, but not fully sold myself yet. Marathon could be a fresh twist on extraction shooters, blending Destiny's polish with Tarkov's tension, but if it's a soulless grind, fans will riot, and this could very well be Bungie's last chance before they close up shop for good. So whether Marathon, like its name suggests, becomes something that can keep going or falls down and dies immediately, I guess we will see. We got a while till it releases. It's currently set to come out on September 23rd, 2025, again, same day as Borderlands 4, which is still competition considering they're both first-person shooter games. If I had to guess, Borderlands 4 will come out on top, probably. And it will be the more safe choice, or bet, if you will, for players when it comes to picking a game to buy when these two inevitably release. But with Bungie taking a franchise they're known for and then removing the single-player element for that live service chase instead, can it be enough to save this studio? And I guess my question to you is Marathon something you want to play? Are you okay with its premium price tag, which we don't know exactly what it is yet, or is it a hard pass for you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.